Welcome to Membership Voice. I'm Caro O'Shea, for those who don't know me, the coordinator of Voice and the host for this evening's webinar. A special welcome to tonight's presenter, Rotary Esperance storyteller extraordinaire, Corrina Rawlinson. Hey, Corrina, how are you?
Good, Caro. How are you?
I'm going well, thank you. I'm going well. But at this stage, I consider it really important to acknowledge the Whadjuk people of the Noongar Nation, who are the traditional custodians of the land on which I'm hosting tonight's webinar. I acknowledge the strength of their continuing culture and offer my respects to elders past, present and emerging. Now for tonight's presentation, which of course is Rotary Esperance Unlimited, to be presented by Corrina Rawlinson. Over to you, please, Corrina.
Thank you so much, Caro, for having me. Just blown away by the whole world of Rotary and absolutely in love. Go. Right. Can we see that screen there, Caro?
Certainly
Perfect.
can.
I'm just going to turn my video off and hopefully we're all good to go. So, welcome to Rotary Esperance Unlimited, presented by myself. I'm just absolutely thrilled to be here. And like I said before, it's an honour to be invited to be talking about this. So I love a good story. I can talk underwater for a very long time. I don't need to come up for a breath. But hopefully I don't talk for too long and we can, get some really good value out of this. So I love a good story and there is so much power to storytelling. So, and I'm going to talk a lot about Brené Brown. Do you know Brené Brown? Have you heard of Brené Brown at all before, Caro? Yeah, I know. I can see a couple nodding there. Yeah. So she's my all-time favourite storyteller. And she specialises in talking about shame-based stories, and she's a counsellor by trade and works in, counselling people through different traumas and that kind of stuff. But my favourite thing about her and the thing that I've learned from Brené is the power of being a storyteller, but also the power of being vulnerable and authentic. And that's helped me connect with so many people along the way. And like I said here in this quote, sharing stories creates connection, something that the human body craves just as much as we crave food and water. We all need that connection. There's nothing worse than being lonely. So I've got a random question for you, but can you all nod or give me a thumbs up if you remember where you were when you first heard about 9/11? Yeah, right? Cool. So in one of Brené's books, she talks about this, the first time that she heard about 9/11, and she was driving along the highway or the motorway or whatever you call it in America, and it came on the radio that the Twin Towers had been hit. And she says in the book, and I've got goosebumps thinking about this, she says in her book that you could see all of the cars just stop and slow down. And what happened was the story that was coming across, even though people weren't in the same car as each other, everyone was connecting and that they knew, and there was this collective power of connection. And that was something that really twigged with me, was just how connected we all are and how hard it can be when we're not connected. That's the power of story. So my story, I will talk about myself for a little bit because I love talking about myself. No, not really. But up the top here, we've got my family. So I'm the eldest of 6. I've got my dad, who's a Rotarian. My dad, Scott, and then my mum, Lee. They've both remarried and got other partners. And in that picture, you've got my husband's in there. He's the really tall one at the back. And then the little ones are my 2 sons. And we're pretty excited because we've got number 3 on the way. I'm about 16 weeks pregnant with number 3. And then that was a bit of a shock for our club, was not only have they got a female member that they've never had before, they've got a pregnant female member. But they'll be pleased because it's a boy, so we're good. So basically my husband and I are high school sweethearts. We've been together since we were in year 9, and we got married when we were 19. And growing up, as when families separate, there's a lot of anxiety and uncertainty and that kind of stuff going around. But also when you're the eldest of the family, you are the designated family manager. And so I was a second mum. And so I basically did everything, knew everything. I was all over whatever was going on. And, my little 17-year-old brain was very, very full, very overwhelmed. And so I have had anxiety for most of my life. But after the birth of my boys, I've been managing my family business for the last 10 years. We've got a news agency. Mum and Dad brought that together back in 2001. So we've had it for 21 years this year. And I took over, about 10 years ago. So I run that with my mum. And after I had my boys, I developed postnatal depression, but it was never diagnosed. And the problem was, after a few years, it just got worse and worse and worse, to the point where I was prepared to take my own life. And so that happened, pretty full on. But that's what happens when you don't know your own worth and you don't know your own value of who you are, and you allow the voices and stuff like that. You allow your story that you're telling yourself to become the truth when it's definitely not the truth. But thankfully, my family noticed before anything terrible happened. And with the help of my family GP, a psychiatrist in Perth, I was admitted to a hospital here in Perth to work on my mental health. And so that was almost 3 years ago this December. It was pretty full on, but there's lots of different things that have happened, and for me to be here where I am now. So funny picture, this one. This isn't one of my boys. This is a little boy. His name is Blue. He is actually 6 years old now, and he was one of the babies. So after I had my boys, I worked as a doula. So I was a birth support person. So I spent a lot of time helping others with their emotional support, not worrying about my own emotional support. So after my first stay in hospital in Perth, when I was dealing with my mental health, I thought it would be a really good idea to try for my third baby. It was a really silly idea for someone that's just come out of a mental hospital. But I was like, you know what, I can do this. I'm fine. I'm well. I can do this. That's totally fine. What happened was we miscarried at 6 weeks. And I know this is a bit of a heavy story, but there is light at the end of the tunnel, I promise. So when we miscarried, my husband thought it would be a really good idea to leave our family business. So my family's also got an earth moving company. And he decided that he'd leave the family business and start his own business, all whilst I'm still in the middle of this mental health breakdown. So that was in March 2020. And I think we can all remember what was happening in March 2020. That was when, I was supposed to go to Perth. I was supposed to rest and nourish myself and all the rest of it. About a week after being readmitted into hospital, COVID hit and the world came crashing down. 48 hours after being in the hospital, they shut everything off and we couldn't go anywhere. So it was literally locked in 4 white walls for a while. But with our family news agency, we were really scared that we were actually going to lose the business, as were any other business owners at the time. With our franchise group, what happened was we were doing daily Zoom calls to be able to work out, what are we going to do with our business? What can we do? And this is where the collective gathering together, doing these Zoom calls, like how fantastic is it that we can sit here, all of us are from different parts of the world, different parts of the state, having a conversation and being able to connect. Like there's so many good things that have come from COVID. But one day when I was in hospital, I woke up to one of the other patients saying, oh, we think the girl down in this ward's got COVID. And I freaked out. I was like, get me out of here. And I rang my husband and I rang my mum. And I'm like, I'm discharging myself. And my husband goes, you can't do that. We're not ready for you to, you're not ready to come home. And I said, I am discharging myself. And I rang my mum, who's a professional self-discharger from hospital. And I said, Mum, the amount of times you've discharged yourself from hospital, you are going to back me this time. I am leaving. And she goes, okay, well, what's the deal? And I said, look, there's COVID everywhere here in Perth. I just want to get home before things get worse. She's like, it's fine, darling, we'll sort it out. And I was lucky my GP and my psychiatrist were both on board with it. They were like, no, we're happy for you to go home. We can monitor you from there. And it was more safe to me be back 800 kilometres from Perth than it was to be in Perth. So I basically fled from Perth. And it was the weirdest, most bizarre feeling being in hospital. But one of the things that happened when I was in hospital and throughout my mental health journey was, again, I learnt the power of vulnerability, connection, and authenticity. So how's this beautiful little social media picture here for you? This is a screen grab that Facebook thought would be a beautiful one to see. So yeah, whilst all this had been going on, I had created my own personal blog through Facebook and Instagram. And originally it was for me to share my thoughts on birth because, you know, little baby Blue back there, I loved sharing all things about birth and how amazing women are. And, you know, just the power of the female body is so amazing. Eventually it moved on to, I was selling doTERRA essential oils. So, you know, if you haven't heard of doTERRA, who even are you? But that was, for me at the time when my kids were young, using natural products was the story that was going on in my life. So that's what I shared with others. And then eventually it became my place to share my mental health journey. So, and still to this day, I share a lot of things that go on in my life because there was magic in what happened. I found a bunch of other women who were in the same boat. Every time I shared something about my story, how I was struggling, I would receive messages saying, thanks for sharing, you know, like me too. Oh my gosh, I thought I was the only one. And that gave me that little, okay, well, if I'm going through all of this terrible stuff, but I've got the strength for me to be able to share it, that I am getting help, that others can get help and that they can get through the other side, then there's got to be a power in this, right? There's got to be, you know, I'm helping people feel like they're no longer alone. And so it all came back to connection. So when COVID shut the world down, hence this beautiful Facebook screenshot that we've got on here, I jumped on a Facebook Live and our family had decided that we would start delivering the newspapers again. So we haven't home delivered newspapers in Esperance since about 2009. It just was too hard and we weren't having enough customers. But when we realized that everyone was shut down and isolated, this was like our thing that we tried to do for the community to try and create that connection, provide some income for our family because we still had to put food on the table. And what it turned into was me doing a weekly live on our Facebook page. You know, it might be weekly, it might be twice a week, might be bi-monthly or something, but it was the way to be able to connect with people because they'd get on there and comment and they'd send us a message or, you know, it was like their interaction. And it was a really fun time. And it got to the point where, you know, I wouldn't post anything for a while. And my mum, who hates social media, was like, you haven't posted anything for a while. Do you think maybe you should do that? And some of these I'd do them at 11 o'clock at night because that's when the only time I could get in there to be shuffling work around. So it was fun. It was fun times. So yeah, you can see from this beautiful photo, I've got no makeup on. I'm sitting in the car. I've got some daggy shirt on. Like there was no thought behind it. It was literally like, I'm just going to do this and who really cares because we're all human beings. Yeah. And my eyes are closed. But the performance from this post speaks for itself. It reached organically without having to pay for anything, 7,000 people. So that was 7,000 people that I was able to connect with and help them no longer feel like they were alone. They had someone to talk to. Oh, right. Oh, gosh. Don't tell me I've deleted a slide, have I? Oh, no, go back. There we go. So lessons from my story. And how does it all relate to Rotary? So in my healing process, the biggest takeaway for me is to learn what's most important for me. So being the eldest daughter, being the family manager, being a mum and all of the rest of it and managing a family business, I've always put others first before me. And that's one thing that I love about Rotary is I'm putting others before me, but in a really healthy way. That's very supportive with others. I'm not trying to save the world on my own. But I worked out what my own personal values were. And that's obviously my health has to be number one. My family, and because my family can't have me without me being healthy. I'm all about value. And that might be I do invest my money on a really good laptop because I'm on my laptop all the time, or I make sure that I buy really good quality clothes or shoes or bras or like that kind of stuff because I understand the value in it. And, you know, I make sure that where I'm putting my money is somewhere that, you know, and it's even value for time. Like, I wouldn't be sitting on this webinar if I didn't think that it wouldn't value anyone, like wouldn't be of value to anyone else. Of course, self-care, looking after me, and self-care can be so many different things, but for me, I love scrolling on TikTok. I love social media. I love doing crazy dances. I love reading. I love so many different things, but mostly it's being around people that I really care about and enjoy their quality time. And so long as they're happy with me to, like, you know, if I go to a friend's house, I'm usually the friend that's like laying on the couch and they just all party around me, because that's what I need as a person, as a human being, to thrive. One of the biggest things is I've learned that you can't give from an empty cup. Everyone says this, right? They're like, fill your cup, fill your cup, fill your cup. But have you ever stopped to think about, instead of just filling your cup and giving from that full cup, that you overflow your cup, you overfill your cup with self-care and all of the rest of it, and only give from the overflow? So that way my cup is always full for me, and that I'm only ever giving from that overflow. And I know that if my cup's not full, that's when I shouldn't be doing different bits and pieces, because I need to reset. And it catches me out. It caught me out on the weekend. So now I don't commit to anything unless it aligns with my personal values. And that's a real hard and fast rule for me, because if it doesn't align, it's not meant for me. So, all right, enough about me, more about Rotary. I was saying to Kero earlier, it just blows me away, Rotary. So in this photo, we've got to the right is my dad, and then myself, and then we've got our club president, Rod, and then to the left of Rod is Tom, who is our club secretary. Tom and I were inducted on the same night. And then we've got Bob Board, who's been a long-term member of our club, and then ex-district governor, Pat Straven. And it was, I spent most of this day with Pat, and it was a really special day. And we went up and worked our club's got a driving simulator. So we went and did that with one of the schools, and that was one of my first Rotary projects. So fancy doing one of your first Rotary projects with the district governor kind of like in there as well. But that night I sat with Pat at the head table of the dinner, and we had some really good conversations, and she really opened up my eyes more to things. But anyway, I'm digressing away. So how did Rotary come about for me? So last year, and there's a bit of a theme to my story. So last year there was a spate of youth suicides in town, 2 in 24 hours, not linked. And everyone goes, they kind of happen in groups and all of the rest of it, but they weren't linked. But the worst thing for me, and obviously, I know these families, and it's been really hard to watch them through this grieving process. But the thing that really hit home for me was, how did these boys get to the point where they truly believed with their whole heart that that was the only option for them? And that's what, Brené Brown talks about, the shame cycle and generational trauma and all of these different things. And it's such a big conversation. I could literally talk for years about it, but I just really couldn't understand. I couldn't wrap my head around it. I could understand, like me as an adult and all the things that I've got going on in my life, that I believed that that was my only option until I knew that it wasn't an option. But what happened with this, it sparked a group of mums, including myself, to kind of get together and to bring a program to town to talk to about students about resilience. The problem was, because we were just a group of mums, we weren't a community group. We had the funding, but we couldn't receive the funding because, we're not a group. And I texted my dad and I said, Dad, do you think this is something Rotary could help me with? And of course, the answer was yes. Like, they weren't going to say no. That's just not the kind of thing that our club does. And so I spent a bit of time going along to the meetings, and the more I heard about the club and the more I heard about Rotary, the more it interested me. And I'm the type of person, if something floats my boat and I get excited and interested about it, I'll sit up until 3:00 in the morning, Googling it, reading different things, trying to find out about as much information as possible as I can about the same thing. And it was interesting because the conversations we had going on at the time, in the club before I became a member was, that they were working on building a website. And so immediately after I went home, I looked at the other club that's in town. I looked at their website and I looked at it, then I was on Club Runner and I was looking at all these websites throughout the world. I had all these ideas, but I wasn't a member. I couldn't do anything. I looked at the club's social media and they hadn't posted anything since October last year. And I was like, what is going on? I can't handle this stuff. I was like, let me get my hands on it. Anyway, so obviously word was going around the Rotary world of Esperance that I was interested in Rotary, and there's another club in town and they have got female members, and they approached me and said, hey, would you be interested in coming along to one of our meetings? And I kind of read between the lines and I was like, they basically would like me to come and join the club because I'll talk, I'll toot my own horn, like I'm a really valuable club member and, I've got a lot of skills, and that's one of the things I love about Rotary is you've got a group of people that are so skilled in so many different areas that you can achieve so many different things. But there was something in the back of my mind, and it was like the whole point that I've gotten interested in Rotary is because of my dad. And Dad's not one to sit there and like go, Rotary is this, and, like you must join Rotary. Like he was never kind of like, almost like, oh, please, I'll say it like I just say it black and white right there. So he wasn't like Rotary Bible bashing on my head, like trying to like preach Rotary or anything like that to me. He just, he kind of like laid down not the law, but he laid down, he said, like we've got the Rotarians, the wives of the husbands of the Rotarians, and they're like the inner wheel, and they kind of hold everything together. That's where the females have always been within our club. There was a couple of club members that were not interested in all of having female members, and this club's 60 years old, right? And I actually spoke to a couple of our good customers at the news agency, our Rotarians, and I just stopped and spoke to one of them one day and I said, look, I'm thinking about joining. What are your thoughts? And he said, I've known this guy most of my life, and he goes, oh, you know what? Like, I think it would be good, but, it will just take me a little while to get my head around it, because for us, Rotary's always been where we go and hang out with the men and the blokes and we joke and, and they've still got that same sense of humor. They haven't changed at all. So they still do the crude jokes, and I sometimes will join in with them, but, you've got to be one of the boys. So I rang Dad and I said, look, Dad, I'm pretty keen on this. I'm pretty keen on joining Rotary, and if I am going to do it, I really want to do Rotary with you. And he said, yeah, well, Corrina, I've had a couple of members approach me and they actually think it'd be a really good idea. In saying that, like I said earlier, there's a couple of members that are not keen, but he's like, let's give it a go. And so we did. And in February this year, I was inducted as first female member of the Rotary Club of Esperance. They're celebrating our 60th year of being chartered this year, which is really exciting. And it was pretty amazing. But I just knew how much more we could do for the club if we had a place where we could share our story. There's 60 years of history of the amazing things that this club has done, and no one in our town, our club's famous for the Rotary fish vans, so we do fish burgers, and I literally thought that's all Rotary was, that they were just this bunch of old guys that would go and cook fish burgers, and that I'll tell you, like first class fish burgers, they're so good. It was pretty exciting. So for us, what has changed? And I rang our club president earlier and I said, Rod, like, tell me in your own words that I don't toot my own horn, but what do you feel has changed for the club? And so he said, like, the club message has been stimulated through promotion, which is using the social media and using our club website. The average age has decreased slightly. We've gone from like 71 down to 65, and I've told them that no more members over the age of 65. We're doing the Jennifer Jones Imagination Challenge at the moment. So I'm like, come on, guys, we've got to get this. But being the first female of a 60-year-old club, the nerves of change have been negated, and we're developing the club now to be in the up-to-date new technical world. And I was really thrilled because about 3 weeks ago, I went to a meeting and one of the guys kind of came up to me. He's like, I've got something to tell you. And I was like, oh God, okay, sure. He's like, I've got a female who's interested in joining. And I went, pardon? He's like, yes, she was actually really interested in joining years ago. But of course, the story back then was we don't have female members. So she went, okay, cool, no worries. And he ran into her in the street the other week, said, would you still be interested? Yeah, sure. So she's come along to our last 2 meetings. So I just think like it's just changed the dynamic of the club a lot, but not enough to change the scaffolding of the club, like the structure of the club, the integrity of the club. But it's just, yeah, as you know, like Rod has said there, like we've changed the club for the better. We've brought it up to the 21st century. So a few quick tips on how to build your club story. This does not have to be hard, and it can be so simple and so easy, but it's find someone who is confident or prepared to learn how to use social media. So just pick one. You want to use Facebook, use Facebook. You want to use Instagram, use Instagram. But whatever it is, you want to be consistent with your message. And so for us, what we've done, we pick a day of the week. So on Mondays, at the moment, our theme is Meet the Members Monday. And so I emailed all of our members and I said to them, look, I've got 5 questions for you. I think it's like, what's your name? How long have you been a member? What roles have you held in the club? What's your favorite Rotary memory? And do you have a favorite quote? And I've got back all sorts of different things. And I've also said to them, send me a photo of you doing something with Rotary, or be prepared for me to go through the archives and find an incriminating photo of you to share on our social media. So they've all been warned. If they don't give me a photo, I will find something in the archives. And a lot of the guys don't have social media, so I'm having a real hoot with this. But of course, just being kind. But one thing that I've learned, and I haven't written it on here, but I follow Evan Burrell. He's Evan Burrell Changemaker on Facebook and Instagram. And I read earlier that he's actually going to be here in WA for our, oh my gosh, forgive me, I can't even think of the word. District conference, yes. Yeah. I've got baby brain because I'm due to have the baby that weekend. So if you see me at conference, I'll be waddling. Trying to get a baby out. But yeah, so this Facebook group, I found it a little while ago, but it's called Rotary Club Members, Public Image Graphics and Ideas Hub. And it's a really fantastic place, literally just to get ideas, and they've got graphics on there and that kind of stuff. So it's, again, if you've got someone who's prepared to learn how to use social media, this is a really good place to start. And my biggest message would be to have fun. If you're stressing over it, walk away from it and come back later. Don't, and Brené does it too. It's like you don't share things when you're in the mess. So if you're in the mess of overthinking, don't share, just walk away from it and come back. But I know that this is something that WA, as we go into coming together as one district, are working really well on trying to bring out social media and our image and branding and that kind of stuff. So I think that's it. I'm done.
Wow. That was fantastic.
Thank you.
Corrina, diversity, equity, and inclusion. Sorry, let me say that again because I think I swallowed one of those words. Diversity, equity, and inclusion are crucial to the future health of Rotary clubs.
Yeah.
In the past, perhaps we've had the luxury, or thought we had the luxury, of being a bit exclusive, but those days are gone now. Now, you've changed the dynamic at Rotary Esperance, and I have a suspicion that you may have changed it forever.
Yes.
How do you see future change, more change happening in future, and what sort of changes do you see happening?
Oh, I feel like so much change, but slowly but steady. And I really like that with Rotary. Like they just go, hang on a sec, let's just play with this idea a little bit. I know something that we were speaking about earlier was like membership. For me, young family, the cost of membership is quite expensive. I've had discussions with our club about it, and they're like, no, this is what Rotary charges, this is what we're doing. And I've listened to a couple of membership voice webinars before, and I remember listening to one of them. They're like, we charge our club $60 per 6 months membership. I was like, that's $120. That's like $180 less than what Rotary charges. But it just makes so much more sense. Like when we worked it out for me, for my family, we're spending $2,000 a year on Rotary. Now, in one of our pictures that we shared, I'll see if I can bring it back up. And this is such a fantastic opportunity for our club. We went up in Esperance. There's this place called Teen Challenge, and it's a drug and alcohol rehab facility. I've had numerous friends that have actually been through the program. But the thing is when you go into Teen Challenge, I'll just try and share this screen again. When you go into Teen Challenge, you sell all of your stuff. You have no car, you have no driver's license or anything like that. And so then when you come out of Teen Challenge, then, you've got to start fresh. And basically we went out to Teen Challenge a little while ago and had dinner out there. And this is Paul. Mm-hmm. And I wish that our club had thought about this before we'd gone out there. And I wish we'd invited Paul to come and be a member of the club. And the way that we could have done that is by not having a $300 fee to join the membership, because there's no way in this world that Paul could do that. And then people go, well, why don't we just do subsidized fees? And I'm like, but that doesn't really. Someone might go, oh, Corrina, she's not paying her whole fees, she shouldn't be included in XYZ. And it's like, that's not equal. That's not being fair. And how encouraging would it be if we had fees that were nowhere near as expensive as what they are, and we could allow everybody the opportunity to join Rotary? And it's like, by having expensive fees and having all of these costs that are involved, and like, I love going out for dinner on a Monday night because I know that's one night a week that I don't have to cook. And if my husband ever watches this, he'll go, you don't cook anyway. But it's like a really nice social event. Now, if we could allow it be accessible for everybody, then everybody could have the opportunity. And our club, we've had discussions on this, and they've, a couple of the members have come back and said, no, that's it. That's what we're doing. And I'm like, okay, we'll go around. I'm on the board. So I will wait till next year when we go to do the budget, and I will argue the point. But I just think what makes Rotarians so special that it can't be accessible for everybody.
It's just a little plug on that score. One of the things that one of our best practice models has suggested is that for organisations that have something like a market or something that sort of operates regularly, dedicating one of those events per year as a festival of Rotary and getting all of the associated things like, we're about to go into acronym heaven here, like RIPEN and RILA and all the other great things, and youth exchange, and putting on a show while you're doing it, that people will not only come and put money into that to help fund the cost of improving Rotary services, because that's what the festival's about, but they're also likely to pick up on all the great things that Rotary does and want to join in. So, it can be a huge
one of
positive.
The things, absolutely. So one of the things that I'm working on at the moment is, my suggestion was, if we reduced our fees, we could just do an extra couple of fish van events during the summer year. So in Esperance, we've got the ability to go and park the fish van down on the foreshore and just say, look, we've got a food truck here for the night, and the whole town will froth over it and they'll get really excited. And we can make more than enough money in one of those events to be able to cover everybody's fees for the year. And all it's taken is for us to volunteer for a number of hours to cook the fish, and, there we go. But one of the things I want to do is, when we have the fish van, is I'm getting branded a new marquee done up that's branded with all of our Rotary messaging on it, but having tablecloths that will actually have photos of different things that Rotary's done in Esperance, and having some pop-up banners. So it's like getting on top of the marketing and the branding and making sure that we're sharing with the community as much as we possibly can all of the amazing things that Rotary has done, and also how people can be a part of that themselves, just making it like spreading the word.
And making it inclusive.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And I think that was the biggest thing for the club, was bringing a female member in after 60 years was a lot of change. And I just make sure that I throw in a couple of dad jokes and they think I'm pretty funny. So.
I don't know whether one of the membership voice library items that you went through was the one by our Rotary director from Zone 8, Jessie Harmon. Jessie spoke persuasively earlier this year about clubs going from being the old model, which is you can come and join our club if you fit in with the rest of us, to the new model, which is this is a Rotary club that is for its members. It's a member-centric Rotary club, and it adapts. It fits in. It does things to make members feel welcome, and it adapts and it becomes member-centric and adapts. So how would you rate Rotary Esperance in that regard? Because it's a big change.
Well, one of the things was traditionally Rotary, you could only have, and this is why there's 2 clubs in Esperance. Obviously, like the purpose of Rotary is to be able to help build new clubs and create new clubs. But you could only have one person from one profession in the club. And so that's why we've got 2 clubs, because we've got hundreds of thousands of farmers around. So in our club, we've got sheep farmers, canola farmers, deer farmers, any type of farmer you've got. And now I've got in my head corn farmers, because I've been watching a stupid thing on TikTok about corn. Anyway, my sister's going to kill me. But, you know, these days, that's not a necessity of being a part of a Rotary club. You can't, you know, I'm a retail manager. So if my friend down the street that also runs a shop is also a retail manager, she can come and join, because there's not that, like, you know, you can only have one of each. And I think that's, if Rotary is stripping away those things of you can only do this and you can only do that, well, then it's opening it up for everybody. And I think that's like having people such as Paul from Teen Challenge. I just think that would have been such a brilliant dynamic. And we're still going down that. We're building a partnership with Teen Challenge to be able to do that kind of stuff. So it is happening. But I just think, like, the more people that we can, it's bringing the humanity back to it, if that makes sense. Like, it's reminding us all that even though we're Rotarians, we're humans and we're human beings, and the whole point of it is to be of service. You know, like, I think that's, you know, I see the picture behind Linda there that's like proud to be a Rotarian. What does that really mean? And it's like proud to be someone that involves everybody, because there shouldn't be a place of judgment. So it was a really big thing for me, you know, to not have the fear of, I'm going to anyway, and worse. Yeah.
Jill Hannah has a question about Facebook posts. Over to you, please, Jill.
Thanks. Corrina, I was interested, is that, you know, we have Facebook pages all over the place, but how do you get people to share them? You know, you can be preaching to the converted, and unless people sort of share them out, and when you don't have all of your members who are tech savvy or are on Facebook, how do you get that out there?
Pray to the gods of Facebook.
Doesn't work in the city.
No, it doesn't. But I think it's like, as much as you can reiterate it to your members and just say, look, one of the ways that we can spread the message of what our club is doing is by literally, when you see it on your Facebook, just hit that share button. That's all you're doing. It's like literally one of the ways that my friends used to say to it was like, as a small business, and I mean, look at our Rotary clubs, they ideally are a small business in a sense, you know, we're not-for-profit, trying to raise funds for community, international and all of the rest of it. It's like you can be of service by literally just sharing that post. But my question to you is like, have you had anyone come into your club and show the members that are not confident with Facebook how to use it?
Oh, yes, we have. There's still a resistance for people, particularly among our older members, to do that. And it's also a matter of when you're in a city, like I'm in the city. You share it. Well, 3/4 of my Facebook friends are overseas, frankly. Most of them are students. But you know, I've got the ones that are in the city as well, but they're not in my regional area. So you don't use any paid Facebook advertising to sort of get the message to the targeted group of people that you want?
If what I'm doing is particularly for a targeted group, then yes. I haven't done it with the Rotary Club yet, but in my other businesses, I definitely have used paid advertising before. And generally the best way to do it is to find someone that is experienced in that area, because there's certain buttons that you've got to press to make sure that you're getting your money's worth. And I think if you were to ask in that Rotary Graphic Image Hub, I'm sure that there would be people in there that are experienced in that area that would, paid advertising. So I definitely think we've had to use it a lot for the news agency business, particularly for trying to get employees at this time, because it's just so hard. But I noticed a massive difference when I was able to do it. But you've got to be very specific with it to be able to get the value for money out of it. But if I've got a big event coming up for Rotary, I would definitely be using it.
Okay,
Super. Thanks, Jill, and thanks, Corrina. Now, we're going over to Glenda Bryson in a moment, but Jill Padaran Innocent, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, has a question about the $300.
No, I'm sorry. I understood it as a joining fee, and I was like, because, that would be a bar.
I know. I had to question the club and this is something that we'll clarify as a club as well. It was I'd been invited along to like board meetings and stuff, and I emailed the treasurer and I said, look, I haven't paid my fees yet. And he said, oh, no, for the first 6 months, we don't charge our members. And I was like, oh, that would have been really good if someone told me that to start with. I was sitting there thinking, oh my gosh, I owe $300 to someone and they haven't told me yet. But yeah.
Super. Thank you. Thank you for clarifying that. Yeah. Glenda, you have your hand up.
I have, Caro. How are you? Thank you again. Corrina, you're just a breath of fresh air, and you remind me of me 15 years ago. I'm not an oldie in comparison to a lot of Rotarians, and I'm not being disrespectful.
You don't look a day over 35.
You're gorgeous. I'm coming over. What was that stuff you said I had to use? doTERRA or something? I did start Googling it.
Yeah, I have got a bit of makeup on,
Okay. Anyhow, just as an aside, I think one of the things that I want to encourage you to keep doing is pushing the boundaries. But do it respectfully, of course. We all understand, there's people in Rotary, that both male and female, that do not like change and will be very, very resistant to new ideas. I'm experiencing that in regional Victoria. I've moved up here in January this year. I was in a 60-year club in Melbourne, and it was just bloody ridiculous trying to get some of the old fart ideas to stop thinking like that. And, the comment about Facebook and getting people that were on it to physically share the post amongst their friends, whether they were overseas or not, they couldn't get the concept of the sharing is the advertising. And then somebody else might pick it up and say, oh, look at this, there's a car show that Keela used to run every year, and I've just shared it with my friends who've then gone and shared it with theirs, and guess what? I've got free advertising. So I just, and that's right. It is the old-fashioned word of mouth, just done electronically. And
absolutely.
You're right about picking somebody that's confident to do those posts as well. And at one platform, I do see some very effective clubs that they're actually starting now to show on TikTok. And I think that's just a step for me, a little bit too far, but because TikTok's just a nonsense thing to me at the moment. But I'll get nonsense.
There. I'll admit it is nonsense.
Good, I'm glad to hear that. I love the idea of Meet the Members Monday.
Yeah.
I had wanted to do that concept through my old club, and it's very, very simple to do. It's the 5 questions. And the problem I had was that they all got camera shy. They didn't want to have their photos taken. They didn't want to provide an up-to-date photo. And I said, I'm not putting the photo of you on your wedding day 40 years ago up or 60 years ago up. It's a beautiful photo, don't get me wrong, but it's not relevant. And if you want to bring this next level of age in, and that's obviously this big, into Rotary, you've got to show a little bit of relevance to the community that you're in. So I just want to keep encouraging you to do what you're doing. And I hope you don't get too much of a pushback. Just, Kerry, give her my phone number. I'll be your Brene Brown. She's good. I'll be a Brene Brown in Melbourne to tell them,
Awesome.
help
Thank
you to get through how to tell some of these people what to do with themselves. So I just want to congratulate you. You're doing a great job. So
thank you so much.
And baby number 3 is a boy again.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
Well done.
We didn't find out, this is totally a side note, we didn't find out with our first 2. I've since had a number of miscarriages, and just with this one, we've been through a lot, and our 2 older boys, I just thought, bugger it, I want to know this time. And it's been, nice being able to buy a few cute outfits and all of that kind of stuff. And I just feel, I'm still like, don't find out to people, I think, for your first and that. But it's pretty, I was so nervous having to tell the club, imagine having to sit there in front of a group of men going, oh, by the way, I'm a female member, but I'm also pregnant.
It's been a culture shock for some of them, I could imagine, but get over it, Their wives had children, so
exactly. I mean, I think the biggest thing for me is, particularly with my mental health journey, is just making sure that I'm like really clear with my intentions, and being of respect to myself and stuff like that. Like, I just thought, well, you know what, I'm owning it. This is my story and this is who I am. And if you don't like it, I'm really sorry, but I can't change for you. Also, how I don't expect you to change for me either. So.
But there is a compromise in the middle when it comes to Rotary and doing things that are for the benefit of Rotary, not the individual. And this is where the struggle is, that there's so many people that have done such a fantastic job for Rotary, but they seem to want to be, they are Rotary, and they're not. It's a collective. So.
Oh my gosh. I know. We had a very heated assembly meeting a couple of weeks ago, and I just went, guys, this is about being of service to others, but it was, all clubs, all different. I've had the same argument with my hockey club today, but it was like, someone wants to be the person to be it all. And that used to be me. I'm so guilty of that. But now you've got to remember what the purpose of, what are you doing there? And the whole purpose of Rotary is to be of service to others.
That's right.
Okay. So.
Well done. I'll shush there, Karen.
At this stage now, after Glenda's technically asked about 16 supplementary questions, I might just move on to another topic.
Yeah.
What would you advocate that Esperance needs to do to attract more people of your generation? Because you're in your 30s, aren't you?
Yeah.
Yep. So how would you advocate that they would go about that?
I think it just really comes back to sharing the story of the club and sharing the good that the club does and what it is really like to be a member of Rotary. And I think we had this conversation the other day with one of the club members, and he was just blown away because one of the members refuses to talk to anyone about Rotary, just flat out refuses. And I said, you know what, good on them. If that's what makes them comfortable, fine, that's fine. But if you've got people within your club that are willing to speak about their experiences and their love and their passion for Rotary, they're the ones that we want to be telling the stories. So embrace that. But also, if you want to be getting up to date with new, younger members and all of the rest of it, make it accessible. Don't make the membership fees $300 a year. You can't adjust the price of the meal that you go out for each week, because we all know that the rising cost of food, you can't do that. There's no way to do that.
Mm-hmm.
We pay money to the sergeant for jokes and stuff like that. And I mean, people have said, do away with those things. But for our club, it is the funniest part of the night, Do what works for your club, and if things don't feel right, then maybe have a discussion. And, you've got to have those hard conversations sometimes. I want to get rid of the national anthem. And honestly, the way the guys have been singing it lately. So we all got fined for it last week because of how terrible it was the week before. It was so bad. And then when we got fined for it, I was like, oh gosh, okay, yeah, righto. But I think it's just really stopping and questioning and saying, you know, like, is your club living to the values of Rotary? We talk about the 4-way test. Is it the truth? All of the rest of it. And I think that's the big thing, is talking about the Rotary and what Rotary is and what it's about, and talking about projects that you're working on in your community, not particularly international and all of the rest of it. And I know that we all see the bigger picture, but I think that's kind of like in-house stuff. But it's really about how Rotary can be helping the community. And the biggest thing for us in our club is that a lot of people in the community literally think of Rotary and they think of the fish van. They don't think of any of the projects or anything like that we've helped with, unless you can physically see that there's a Rotary sticker or logo on something. But then that's when the power of social media and the power of story is that we can actually share the whole purpose and what's gone on behind that. So I hope I've answered that in a really roundabout question way.
You have answered that in detail. It's absolutely remarkable. You've almost written a little blueprint for a president to follow. And Jill Hannah has a question.
Yeah, sure.
Thanks. I've always got something to say. I think it's a miracle that you joined a club that was full of all blokes and do all those old-fashioned things. It's, you know, I wouldn't join it, and I'm not young. At the time, you know, I can see that you're making a massive difference. I'm just wondering, though, is one of the key things I heard you say is that the reason that you sought out the club was because you had a project that you had a passion about.
100%.
How important do you think that is when we're attracting new people to actually take on their new projects? Because I can't see why you would have joined otherwise, to be honest.
So I spoke earlier about that night that I was inducted, and I sat with Pat Traven, and Pat said to me, she goes, you know, what are your passion projects? What do you want to do? And so I've got a dream of mine that's been put on hold at the moment because I'm currently baking away a baby. But there is a program that happened in Margaret River, and basically it's a research project that I want to get funded to be able to find out where the holes are in the mental health system here in Esperance. And it was great because Pat said to me, she goes, you've got to get onto Australian Rotary Health. And I was like, what is this? And it was like another little pot of gold for me. And I can say now proudly, like I participate in the WA Australian Rotary Health meetings that we have. But yeah, having a passion project. And I think that's it. Like when you want to join something, you want to have that connection with it. You want to have that like spark, because it's almost like dating in a way. Like otherwise you're going to lose interest if you don't have that little burning flame going on inside of you. So
do you think it would be of value to clubs to advertise for members who have a project and be willing to, say, fund them?
Oh my gosh, yes. 110%. Oh my God. I feel like my club's going to tell me off soon, because I'm like left, right and center going, our club will come and do a fish van for that and we'll donate the funds. I'm like, but it's because, you know, sitting on the board, one of the things for our club is that, like, you know, we've raised a lot of funds, but last year we didn't spend a lot of funds. And I'm like, what are we doing holding on to this money if we're not doing good with it? And I mean, obviously we've got projects that are happening in the background that money's being put aside for and stuff like that. But I'm like, if we can just do a couple of extra fish vans over summer, and someone's asked, so like one of my passion projects obviously is mental health, but one of our suicide prevention groups in Esperance have this mental health cafe, and they do it like the Friday before World Mental Health Day. And so they've asked us if we would bring the fish van and if we would do fish and chips or fish burgers for the 150 or so people there and donate it. The other option was for them to go and gather funding to pay us to do it. And I was like, no, because we can fund it ourselves and support you to bring the message of mental health awareness for other people. So we are in the process of organising a Lift the Lid walk as well. And we were doing the Lift the Lid walk with doing a community event with our local RGA, but then also doing mini ones with schools. So yeah, that's something that like I say, that's my passion project. And I think it's really important that I think that's one of the things that I wanted to put on the website was like, you know, if you have got a project or you have got something, come to us, be a guest speaker, like tell us about it and we can find a way to help you. And we did have that with a guest speaker a couple of weeks ago. She came along, she had cancer when she was younger. She's wanting to create a podcast and a website on how country patients can get access to different support outside of the hospital setting. So we were like, how can we help you with that? And so there's different things. And I think that's like, yeah, an opportunity, definitely.
Well done, Corrina, and congratulations on all you do. If you ever move to Perth, come to Matilda Bay, please.
I am in Perth, and I did say this to someone earlier, like I am in Perth at the moment, like once a month and all the rest of it. And I would really love to be able to come along to some different meetings. So I will touch base with you for sure.
Great, thanks.
Right. Now, Ken has ducked off.
Ken has ducked off, but he's left a note here that I'm going to read out on Ken's behalf because Ken was having trouble unmuting.
Yeah.
He said 99% of members with varying degrees of enthusiasm think Corrina is the best that has happened for the club. We are excited about the future of Rotary in Esperance.
Yeah.
Corrina Rawlinson, why are you in Rotary?
Oh, gosh. All of the above. No, and this, like I said earlier, the biggest thing for me is because I'm such a yes person, and I think I nearly had a slide on this. So it's like I don't know if anyone's ever delved into the world of human design, and it's like where all the stars and everything line up when you're born and whatnot. And basically, I am a generator, so I can generate a lot of stuff. And sorry, that's my medication alarm. I find it really hard to say no, and I find it really hard to shut my mouth when someone says, I need help. And I go, oh my gosh, I know the answer. I don't know how I can help you. And I'm the person that like basically at the meetings, people like holding my hand down going, no, someone else can do it. And I'm like, but I know how. And they're like, no, someone else can do it. So for me, having Rotary is a really good way for me to have a healthy boundary around helping others without breaking myself down into a million pieces, knowing that I've got such a great support team. And even this, like even membership voice, it's like knowing that there's different people around that can help you with anything, you know, like it's just such a valuable tool. Like I'm so excited, and I want, and this was one of the biggest things too, when I found out that I was pregnant with this baby, it was like, what do I want Rotary to look like in 30 years when my son's joined Rotary? Certainly not the way that it used to be prior to me joining the club. And I want it to be inclusive, and I want it to be accessible to everyone, and I want it to be of value, you know, like Rotary does such an amazing thing in the world, in our communities and all of the rest of it. And it's literally just from people volunteering their time and putting their skills and their efforts and the things that they're really great at in together in this like little pool of things. And you go, I need help with this. And someone can pull out at the ball and go, I can help with this because I've got this experience. And, you know, it's just so magic.
That Corrina has put in an absolutely fantastic presentation and a great Q&A session and spoken from the heart tonight. A big hand for Corrina.
Thank you,
Corrina.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone else, for being with us tonight. I think that's been absolutely fabulous.
Thank you, Corrina. Thank you, Kara. You're doing great.
Thanks, all.
Love it. See you next time.
Yeah. Bye.
Yeah.